Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Mind Management Mentors podcast, where we talk mental health, we talk leadership, we talk neuroscience, we are talking how we can make a change. But today's all about inspiration and who's inspired me in the past. So I wanted to reach out to a couple of the leaders that I worked with at Royal Caribbean, and you were one of the original
OG.
leaders that I had that genuinely you changed my life, Barbara. You
Oh,
actually changed my life. Paul was a big part of that, but you were as well. So that's why we're having that conversation. Do we ever say thank you to the people that changed our life? So I'm making a point of saying thank you to the people that have changed my life. Barbara, introduce yourself and welcome to the Mind Management Mentors podcast.
well, thank you for having me, Cuddy. What a blessing. That's so nice of you to say. So my name is Barbara Cobas, and I'm just another lady doing it. No, I really, truly, I grew up in a small town outside of Chicago, Illinois, and then I went and worked on cruise ships. And after working on cruise ships, I worked in Royal Caribbean's headquarters for about 11 years and had, in 13 years at Royal, I had 11 different jobs. And I like to say that it's not because people didn't like me, it's because they liked me, I think. I just kept trying and digging and talking to people and networking and doing things from my heart. And I got the privilege of meeting you along the way, so many people. And about 8 years ago, almost nine, I was at the peak of my career, and I had this real pivotal moment where I knew I was meant to be a leader, and my job got so busy and so political. I had just gotten back from 5 weeks in China. I had 2-year-old twins at home. I was doing a ship launch, a board meeting, a dinner on the Great Wall of China for all these massive CEOs. And I just looked at my husband. I was like, this isn't life. This isn't
Mhm.
life. There's no money that could replace this. Watching my kids, I can still remember it, like brings tears to my eyes, seeing a video of my son, like almost taking his first steps. And I was so nervous I was going to miss the actual moment. And then I got back and I had this moment where one of my team members, she had it was her brother's wife had passed away during childbirth. And I I was going from meeting to meeting. I ran past her desk. I'm like, hey, could you do this? And then I kept going. I hadn't gone to the bathroom. I hadn't eaten. I was late from one meeting, late to the next meeting, and I didn't see her. I didn't remember that she had gone to the funeral that weekend. And I just stopped in my tracks and my heart sank. And I went back and I sat at her desk and I said, talk to me. Tell me about what happened. How are you? And when I knew that my life was not allowing space for those conversations, that's when I was like, I'm out. And my husband and I was like, honey, we can do this. We created a spreadsheet. We called it the exit plan. And on this spreadsheet, it was okay, if we're eating ramen noodles, this is how much money we need. If we're eating pizza out once every 2 weeks, this is how much money. If we're eating out a nice dinner once a week, this is how much money. And we said, all right, we can, this is the good, better, best. And we said we can do it. And we built our company. We doubled the revenue every single year. Right now, we have about 35 employees. And we have amazing clients. We've never done any advertising. We've never done any, like, we just have, by the grace of God, grown, treated people really well, hired people, fired people. Welcome to leadership. And just developed ourselves, done every training course, therapy for a year. When we started working together, I was like, I need a therapist after working with my husband, and then a life coach for many years. And we do a lot of Tony Robbins stuff. We follow Dr. Joe Dispenza, EMDR, all the stuff that you talk about. And just we're a constant work in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are constantly a work in progress. That is a lot of effort. Now, there's lots of branches to the tree of Barbara Cobas. Traveling the world on a cruise ship, and keeping your business going and still growing, which is absolutely fantastic. But I want to go back to the first time I think I met you, which is probably the origin of the story. I think I'd been at Royal Caribbean for, let's say, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I'd been on a cruise ship. I was very it's not really going to be a surprise to anybody. Very loud, very British, very jovial, very I want that job. And I remember, and I'll give a shout out to Rob McNally. I'd not even finished basic training at Royal Caribbean. And I said to Rob McNally, 2 weeks into it, what do I need to do to get your job? And he just looked at me. He's like, what you on about? I'm like, no, tell me I know I'm doing basic training in life at sea and safety. What do I need to do to get your job before the end of the 6 months is up? My first 6 months contract. He was like, shut up, you idiot. I'm like, I want that seat. Then I want that seat. I want the cruise director's seat. So I would say probably 3-4 weeks into me, but Rob McNally went, Barbara Cobas is coming aboard. The big boss, she's our boss. Da, 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 da. I didn't know anything, so I didn't have fear and reservation at that point. And I was like, yeah, bring it on.
Beautiful.
It's not a problem. I told you I need your job, so whatever. So you came on board.
Oh my gosh.
And you
I
kept
love it. What
the
ship was it?
majority of rules.
What ship?
You navigator of the seas.
I love it.
Came on board and you watched me do Majority Rules, which was a Tuesday night, formal night game show that I always like, give me Majority Rules. That's ad lib. I'll do that. Give me Majority Rules. I'll do that every week. And then that's pretty much, I got promoted super quick at Royal Caribbean because of you, Barbara.
Oh, well, because of you, not because of me. I just happened to be there and see you, you know, because of you.
But that's not where the story is because I was an atrocious manager when I stepped up. I had no idea about management, leadership. I had the
Yeah.
stage, not a problem, could not manage people. And what it was when I stepped up into that role of activities manager, the team I had were really supportive. Cuddy, we'll do anything we can help. We really enjoyed working with you because I was always supporting everyone. Then that team left, and the new team came in, and they were like, "Who are you? How the hell did you get? Where's this? Where's this?" And I was like, and I got ripped a new one. I absolutely got ripped a new one, which is where you came back in, Barbara.
So
That's
good.
exactly where you came back in, and you said, "Cuddy, we need to show you how to be a manager." And I was like a sponge. Back in the day, Paul Rutter, you, Cuddy,
Yeah.
got that. We need you to help you with that. And I was like, perfect. David Chapman came in for 2 weeks. He was like, Cuddy, no one's ever been as nice as you have for learning how to be a manager. I'm like, I need to learn. I need to learn. I need to learn.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the story of, and I want to say thank you, Barbara.
Oh, my pleasure. My
Never any
pleasure.
judgment, never any be made to feel less, be made to feel stupid, be made to feel like I wasn't supported to grow in the role.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
skill that, to be fair, not many cruise directors have. However, the ones that I'm reaching out to had that skill. There was no swiping of the legs. There was always a let's push you where you need to go as long as you've got the determination to see. So I want to say thank you, Barbara. That's how I want to say
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you
that's the
for
story.
showing up and being a sponge and having, that mindset to be able to learn. Not everybody's there. You can tell people until they're blue in the face something, but unless they're ready to receive it and ready to grow and ready to change, I think that you can only do so much. And as a leader, you have to have your antennas, your radar on to be able to say who's ready and who's not. And there's sometimes you have harsh conversations and people don't hear it, and that's their stuff, and you got to decide how far you're going to go into it. You were like, give it to me, I want to change, I want to do it. I have a cruise director that I remember sitting down with him in the office once, and they're like, you got to tell him, no, you got to tell him, no, you got to tell him. And so I sat down with them. I was like, I love you very much, however everybody hates you. That was basically what I told him. And I was like, let me give you some examples. Ba 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 ba. And he was like, and to this day, he always tells me, it's like, that conversation changed my life because nobody had ever been that honest with me. And I think that it's a balance. It's lovingly honest, is like, I see in you who you are, but I know you don't want to come across this way. And this is how you're coming across. And funny enough, how, life energy, all the goodness works. He and I run into each other in the most ridiculous places. I was sitting in a cafe in Nice, sitting in a cafe on a trip to France, unrelated to cruising. It was an alley, like it was like an alley in the back street. And who walked down the damn street? Him. And it was like we ran into each other's arms. So I think that as a leader, you're given this beautiful opportunity to set your ego aside and change somebody's life and have a conversation and say something nobody else has said to them. But your discretion has to be so clear on if that person is ready for change. You were ready. You were ready to get the feedback. You were ready to grow. You were ready to get, because you wanted it so much, but not everybody's in that place all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I would say that at the point I was at Royal Caribbean, it was quite male heavy, and you were a female
Yeah.
leader. How did Barbara manage that? Because you
Ooh,
kept going higher and higher. At one point, you were VP of something. I don't know if it was you. I was like, my God, Barbara's there. Because I remember when I was on the Aloha and somebody said, oh, by the way, Barbara Cobas is coming on for a Christmas cruise. She's coming on. Make sure we give her absolutely everything. I'm like, oh, Barbara Cobas. Yeah, I know Barbara Cobas. Oh, no, Cuddy, you don't know Barbara Cobas. I'm like, trust me, I know Barbara Cobas. And you were absolutely, you came up to give me a massive hug in front of all the other senior leaders. They're like, oh, Cuddy does know Barbara Cobas. I'm like, of course I know Barbara Cobas. And they were like, oh, we didn't realize. I'm like, I really, absolutely. So
uh,
in that, it was quite male heavy, it was masculine heavy
mhm.
at one point.
Yeah.
How did Barbara rise, still have empathy, still have those honest conversations? How did you manage it as a female in a male
Mm,
dominated industry?
mm. Well, I think one of the things that I was always like really, I don't know if paranoid or conscious, is that I never wanted to get ahead based, because granted, I moved from ships to shoreside at 24, 25, something like that. I was relatively young. I was one of the youngest directors ever in the company. I was barely 30. You
Mhm.
had to go through this 2-year training program. They're like, let's put you in the program so you can get promoted. And I was competing with 50-year-old men for this
Mhm.
one job that I got my first director promotion.
Mhm.
But I was really conscious about how I dressed, how I looked, how I presented myself, the words that I used, who I networked with. I never, ever wanted my looks, or I never wanted to be perceived. I never wanted my value to be diminished based on I always wanted to be perceived as older. I wanted to speak. And I think that everybody who says, oh, that's superficial, I'm like, no, welcome to life. People are going to look at you and they're going to make a judgment on you. I'm sorry. And and I had an etiquette coach at Royal Caribbean, and she was like so firm on this. And I'm like, people in leadership in corporate America, when you show up to something, how you take care of yourself, how you present yourself is important. So for me, that how I came across was really important. But also, I made sure that I was the most prepared person in the room. I am not my IQ is not very high, but man, my emotional intelligence is through the roof. So I knew that there was people in that room that could remember more than I could. So I knew I had to try harder. I knew I had, and had like, I was in a leadership program once, and they said, "Oh, we'll choose your mentor. You can recommend." I was a manager or something, and most of the people chose VPs and directors, and I was like, "All right, let me look through the whole organization. I'm gonna find." I wanted a Christian woman, had a husband at home, had kids. I wanted all these things. It happened to be a senior vice president. I was like, "Well, hell, I'm shooting for the top. I'm just gonna ask." And lo and behold, this amazing woman, Dondra Ritzenthaler, she was the senior vice president of sales for Celebrity, said yes. And she mentored me. And so I think always going like, who am I aligned with? Who do I want to be? Because those people breathe life into me. they taught me. I would go to her and I would say, okay, I have this dinner that I got invited to. What do I need to wear? What did she lent me a dress? He told me how to approach the table and how to choose my seat. I had these people that were breathing life into me. And then at and it always, 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 it doesn't matter your age, your values and your integrity, it always led me. And so when I sat down with this, I worked for the senior vice. When I left, I worked for Vicky Freed, who was the senior vice president of sales for Royal Caribbean. But I basically worked for Michael, for the CEO,
Yeah.
because all the ship launches, all the events, I was doing everything globally. Is that I would I would just say, hey, these are the rules for this thing that I'm running. CEO, do you agree to these rules? And he's like, yep, I support, I align. And so when I had a male VP asking me to bend the rule, I was like, with all due respect, I had no fear. And they're like, how do you say no to those people? I'm like, because it's values, it's integrity. If I make a compromise for him, why wouldn't I make a compromise for her? And so I think that for me, as long as you keep consistent, and that is from the freaking guy that is cleaning your office to the CEO. I didn't treat those people any differently because, in my eyes, they're human and they have value. And when you as a leader start getting political and start showing favoritism and start showing bias, is when you start to compromise your soul. I really truly believe it. And my team members knew they could depend on me. And being a female, it was like, they knew I was badass. They knew I was badass. They're like, oh, don't mess with her. Like, but it was with love, it was with kindness, and it was with values.
Brilliant.
And I think women are afraid to do that. They like want to get by doing this or doing that, or, flirting. Like, no, just be really good at your job and it'll get you where you need to go.
Oh, I remember one crew staff doing that with me. I've just remembered. My wife came on board. I've been with Carol for years, so they'll never have ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me and Carol have been solid for years, and I remember I, and it was probably a couple of contracts after that I'd been shown how to be a manager, moving into that director role, and one of the crew staff, who was, to be fair, quite an attractive crew staff, came over as my wife walked up the gangway. And I remember her coming up and saying, "Oh, hi, Cuddy. Oh, it's really good to see you. Look, can I go and do this and go and do this?" And she was really, really forward as my wife walked up. And I genuinely just looked at my wife and went, "She's never done that before. I have no idea why she's doing that now, and she will be reprimanded later." It was just, it was the most
Yeah.
awkwardest thing. The most
Yeah.
awkwardest thing. I was just like, no
Yeah.
idea. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. And values. Look, I did
It's
another
this
podcast about,
real delicate balance of being in a masculine space and a feminine
yeah,
space. Like, you have to be feminine just enough and you have to be masculine just enough. And if you can sit in this real neutral ground
yeah,
where you don't see people differently, you don't expect favors in return for your femininity, you're not too aggressive in your masculinity. I
yeah,
think you can sit in this real balanced space of love and of then and I never, like, really truly, I never had any major issues with men, with anything like that, with jealousy of women, because I never put the air out there.
nope,
It just wasn't out. I never wear skirts too short. I never wear high heels too tall. I just it My values were so strong, and I think that women, I'm sorry, it's just something that it you got to be really protective of, because this is the world that we live in.
yeah. So I want to ask a few questions, especially from the leadership. And we talked about it a little bit in before we actually went onto the podcast, and I thought I was like, that's a conversation to have. Giving too much grace, and where does or another way of looking at it, where does a lot of the leadership now, I keep seeing it on LinkedIn, is like empathy, 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 empathy. And even I'm like, but where does empathy stop? Where does it
Yeah.
stop? Where does the giving the grace as a leader, where does that line get drawn? I think it's a
Yeah.
really hard question to answer, because we, especially with high emotional intelligence, as I would say that we both have, where does it stop? Because Barbara, we had a little conversation. I was like, just absolutely bang on the money there. where does the line get drawn from a female leader in the role that you are and the heights you've got to? How do you make those decisions?
Yeah. So I think really truly it's like female leaders have the benefit of being like a little bit like the mother hen, like the goose, like it's all their little chickens that are underneath it. Like intuitively, we just have that instinct of the chickens.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that like our flock or whatever it is, I always find that is, but we really have to remember that we're running a business. And we have to remember that we're making decisions in the best interest of all of our employees. So when we are dragging dead weight, or when you continue to grant people's excuses, or they're missing, or they're letting other team members down, it's cliche to say, but it just looks bad on you as the leader, because everybody's looking around and they're going, hey, you as a leader communicated us. These are the values and these are the goals. And this is how we operate as an organization. And everybody's pushing themselves to be able to be in that place. And then you get somebody within your organization that's subpar and they're not doing it. And I always say you have A, B's, and C's within your organization. Like you're going to have those A players, you're going to have B players that are sometimes A's, sometimes C's, and then you're going to have C players. And if you have too many C players, or if you're not quick enough in your decisions with them, you coach them, you guide them, and then you got to let them go, because you have to go, is this person learning? And I have this instance actually happening this week is we had an individual in our team that he made some massive mistakes that could have had a huge implication to the rest of our team, to our bottom line, to all of these things. We're a company that we're like, all right, people make mistakes, give grace. But this was a big mistake. And it was, gosh, I think it's NVIDIA. The CEO of NVIDIA was talking about an employee that cost him $600,000. And he's like, I didn't fire the guy because he had just had a $600,000 lesson. This is, you have media telling you that from one side. And then the other side, I have this situation where I'm like, he made a mistake that could have cost our client relationships, all the people that worked really hard. And for me, I walked in to the organization and he had made the mistake. He was still working and he was still doing the same job that he had made the mistake in. And I said, guys, send him home. Send him home. He needs a pow pow. He needs a timeout. He needs to take a moment to reflect on the implication of his mistake. And so they were like, oh. But again, I'm the mother hen. So imagine you got all your chickens and one of the chickens is pecking the other one. You're going to put that one in timeout. So I was like, send him home. He needs a lesson. So he got sent home. He came back and he didn't apologize to anybody. He didn't say, I'm sorry. He didn't own what he had done. So we sat down with him and we said, hey, like, we get it, but you didn't own your mistake. So that was A, you made the mistake. B, you didn't recognize or apologize to the employees on our team that you impacted. Some of the employees on my team had to stay in the office till 3 a.m. to fix the mistake that he had made. And then he's continued to make mistakes. So I'm like, this is not, if I allow that team member to stay on my team, everybody goes, this is acceptable. This is acceptable. You can do that. I'll just come in a little late. I'll just make a mistake. Will you let so-and-so make the mistake? And it begins to compromise your entire organization and they begin to question your leadership. So you have to be fast and you have to be decisive. And I'm the best firer of people in the world, that when I fire people, they say thank you, because you just have to be brutally honest. Nobody wants to be in a job that they are not successful in. Boyfriend couldn't do the job. Nobody wants to be apologizing all the time. He wants to be in a job where he's going to be successful. And so we allowed him to go on that path. That meant losing the employment from us. But I think for our entire organization, we're saying, hey, these are the standards. You got to be able to do these things. And too many companies wait too long. And I use the terminology like dragging the dead bodies. I'm like, you guys, how long are you going to drag them? It means you have to work more. It means you have to double and triple check that employees work. Like, you don't get the promotion. You don't get to thrive because you're looking over your shoulder all the time at Billy Joe that's making the mistakes. And they're like, oh, we get it. And it really becomes a determination of your organization. Granted, you're going to have some positions within your organization that, like, your nephew or like our organization, when I had our Amazon company, we hired somebody with special needs. And so we had there's certain things that it's exceptions to that. But when you're talking about jobs that are really important to the success of your company, you have to be a decisive leader. You have to lead. So yeah,
So where does the empathy stop?
when you the empathy never stops. The empathy is converted into putting that person into a position of success. If you stay working for me, I'm going to be riding you all the time. People are going to be questioning you. I can look at moving into another role, but I don't have another role that would fit. Like this guy, he didn't count stuff right. Like he didn't count, so he didn't know how to count. And I'm like, it's a fundamental for. So I want you, and with all of my employees, I'm happy to recommend other companies to them if I have one that is a fit, and I'm really transparent with it. Hey, this would be the right role for this person. And it just, the empathy doesn't stop. And I think that's why the firing is important. When you let somebody go, it's going, I genuinely care about you. And this isn't a fit. This isn't a fit for you or for me. And they know, people know. And don't be a weak leader where you just like, I, I say, like, don't people go, oh, just put the pressure on them. If you just put the pressure on them, then eventually they're going to quit. I'm like, that has malice in it.
Yeah,
Like that has, that
that's
has
intentional.
malice. And I'm like, no, just be super honest and just whatever the rules are in your country, pay them a severance. We pay everybody at least a week severance, pay them the severance and wish them luck and allow that person to walk away with their dignity
Yeah,
because it hurts your company. It hurts your company and the empathy continues. And you wish, and also from an energetic, like, don't overlook the power of your thought. So and gosh, when was this? Oh, I had an employee that was, they were mediocre at what they were doing. Our company had evolved and they hadn't evolved. And everybody was complaining about this person. And I said, mm-mm, I'm not going to complain about this person. I am going to desire something better for their life. So I am not joking you for 5 days every day. Instead of thinking about what a crap employee this person was, I kept saying, man, I'm opening up the opportunities that something close to this person's home, something that pays them more money, something that's going to make them feel fulfilled and valuable. I am not kidding you. Within a week, the guy quit because he got another job. So don't overlook the power of your perspective on how you can frame something. Instead of thinking something's bad, think about like the universe, God, whatever your divine source is, opening an opportunity for that human being. They want to feed their family, they want to pay their bills. So desire good for them instead of turning it on yourself and saying it's bad for me.
perfect. So now we've gone from empathy and emotional intelligence into a really powerful, because I've known you for obviously many, God, it's 13 years since Royal Caribbean. No, it's 20. My God, it
Yeah.
might be nearly, yeah,
We did, like, it's so weird because I'm like
15, 16
24. I
years.
feel like
Yeah.
I'm 24.
Wow. Right. Okay. So now I've known that you've always been a lady of faith.
Yeah.
That Christian, it's Christian.
Yeah. But it's,
It's faith.
I don't
I know
think
that
it's a
you're a lady
bucket.
of faith. Yeah, faith, absolutely. So where does faith and manifestation join for you, or is it separate? Because clearly you're a manifester with everything that you do. We understand the power of thought. We genuinely do understand the power of thought. Um, how does that work for you? Because faith and manifestation, do they come into difference, or do you just make it one?
Mm. So it's funny because like the man, I'm following this guy right now. He's freaking phenomenal. His name is Father Richard Rohr, and he's a Catholic priest. And he talks about one of the things that he says is like atheism exists because of religion. Like He's just
Yeah.
like, he's so outspoken. He's like, it's not black or white. It's not right or wrong. It's not heaven or hell. We've missed the point of it all when we believe in that way. And so for me, I've always been a Christian. I was raised a Christian. I went to a Christian college. And even when people like start working for us, I'm just like, hey, like we talk about God like every once in a while. Like I use it in reference, we believe. And so if that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe it's not the right place for you to work. And I say it at the front because I'm like, this is who we are. And I always encourage people, like in your resume, when you're applying for a job, if there is some belief that is within you that's really, really important to you, freaking put it on your resume or your CV. Because I want the people, if they have a bias or they have a prejudice towards people that are Muslim or people that are Christian or whatever, frankly, allow them to eliminate me at the first pause. And everybody's so afraid. I'm like, no, just say who you are and own it and live with this. My husband and I live with these like crazy open mind, knowing that God, the universe, the divine, whatever it is, like we get to create our reality. Like goodness is guaranteed to come to us. We have this saying that we say, we taught it to our kids. And I wish I could remember what podcast I heard it on or what thing I listened to, but I repeat like at least 100 times a day, I'm Barbara Cobas and only good things happen to me.
Yep.
And I repeat it when I walk out of the house, when I'm stuck in traffic, when a deal gets messed up, and now I say it so much and my employees say it back to me. I'm like, this got messed up. They're like, however, you are Barbara and only good things happen. My kids say it. My kids, they go, Mom, I got an F on the test, and I go, but who are you? And they go, I'm Lydia Cobas and only good things happen to me. I'm like, heck yeah, girl. So I think that it's making your belief in goodness, making your belief in that what your reality is going to be. Our family tagline is design the life you desire because we get the choice.
Yeah.
And whether it's whether you're Muslim, whether you're whatever religion you are, whatever you believe, religion is just like this box that makes faith smaller. Like, what if the harder thing really truly to do is to love everybody? You got to love them all. You got to love the crappy employees. You got to love the great employees. You got to love the crappy kids. You got to love the good kids. And our challenge, like, is to really, truly in business, love everybody exactly where they are, honor them. And I had a friend that wanted to like talk to somebody. She's this person is a high D, and yeah, on the disc profile, so like dominant, very like,
Dominant.
and
Yeah.
they had this conflict, and they're like, I want to talk to them, and I want to resolve it, and I'm like, give that person grace. Just give that person space. Allow them to be where they are. Allow your kid to have a bad day. Allow your employee to have a bad day. It's not going to be a trend, but just allow that person to have that moment and really truly believe. There's a great book that it's a parenting book. It's called Good Inside, Dr. Becky something. But she just talks it, and it's about children's psychology, but you can layer it onto anything. And I think that for me, that goes from my belief system down is like going like every single human is beautifully and perfectly made and unique. And I gave that analogy of like the wheelchair, like not everybody's meant to be a marathon runner. Some people were born in wheelchairs. Like every single person is different. You're an A, B, or C. You're a marathon runner, or you're like everybody moves at a different pace. Everybody has a different talent. And I think religion or Christianity or faith has said that it has to be perfection, and that's just not real.
No.
Life isn't real. You look at a tree and there's a yellow leaf and there's a brown leaf and there's a green leaf. It's all supposed to be different. So, yeah, that for me, my faith is like fundamental, but my faith, I don't want people, it would be really boring if everybody believed what I believed.
No, absolutely. But that would definitely that plays back into the high emotional IQ. And I remember reading the Daniel Goleman book when I was, and we had actually I remember one of the crew staff. he was just so intelligent, so intelligent. And I was reading this book, and he'd always rattle off dates and facts. I was like reading the book, and I'm like, oh my God, he's just got no emotional intelligence whatsoever. Because I always felt insecure around really smart people, like really
Yeah,
smart people. I was always like, oh, I'm not in the right place here at all. And then I read the emotional intelligence. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the smartest person in the room because I understand emotions, I understand mine, I understand other people's emotions now. And I actually had when your IQ so your emotional IQ or your EQ is so high, you are able to have those conversations, those difficult conversations. And I remember having the conversation with him, and I'm still friends with him now. Like it was the same conversation. Look, FYI, no one likes you for this, and this. But if you do this, and this, you might find there's a change. And he just looked at
yeah,
me, and he was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, I can't spell it out to you anymore." And I'm
yeah,
still friends with him today.
yeah,
Today, I'm still friends with him. He's like, "Oh, I still," and I was
yeah,
like, read this book. You need to read this book because I know how smart you are, but it just repels people. You need to read
yeah.
this book, the Daniel Goleman book for emotional intelligence. It
And
was such a thing.
and really truly it's not about right or wrong. It's not that
Yeah.
one person's right because they're more emotionally intelligent and one person's wrong because they don't, because that's just like emotional intelligence. EQ is like the phrase of the day, and it's it is important, but I think it's also like being able to receive and understand what someone else's strengths are. um, that going, oh, that person is incredibly talented in this area. How do I give them more work like this? I had a team member of ours who was like, he was one of like our client services people, but he was so brilliant. He was so systematic. He was smart guy. And man, he was crap with clients. He was crap because his clients go like this, and they go like this, and he wanted everything to go like this. He wanted an order. And but he had value to our company because he had values, he had integrity, he was a hard worker, he was smart, he had all these things. So we had a gap within our systems, like all the platforms and all the build outs of that other thing. And I was like, no, we got to take that guy, we got to put him here because he is going to thrive. And you would have thought he like died and went to heaven. He is kicking butt in the job that he's in. And instead of managing his performance in the wrong job, we just said, no, this is what his superpowers are. And we need that over here. And I think a lot of leaders don't take the time to breathe and to realize that. They just, but that's why you have to bring in people. I use a disc profile and I'm a high I on, so an influencer on the disc profile. And so I was always really intentional about hiring people that were my polar opposite.
So you
Those
would hire
people,
the analytics then?
nuts. They drove me nuts.
I
I
hate
don't
that.
like C's. I don't like S's. They're too damn slow. But I need those people in my life to slow me down, to check my work, to help, right? And right?
Yeah. To this day, I know when I'm in a certain room and I'm off like a horse out of a I'm out, I'm a bullet, I'm gone. And I'm like, do this, and I'll dance and jazz hands and all those things. And then you've got someone, and he's a business coach, and I know he won't watch it, but he's a business coach, and he just the life just leaves my body when he starts talking and asking me questions, and I have to not react to him like, can you just make a decision? Just make a decision. But I need to know this and I need this and I need to know this. But I know we need these people in our lives. I genuinely do. So after I've calmed myself down, so I always need a good 24 hours after someone's told me something and I've completely dismissed them, and I'm
Yeah.
honest, I'll go back to them 24 hours later. I'm like, actually, you made a really good point. I've had time to think about it. I
Yeah.
because I've been told, Cuddy, you're so dismissive. I was like, I'm not dismissive. I'm ideas, and I call it tits and teeth. Even though I've got one of my teeth missing, I call it tits and teeth. If you want somebody to sing and dance and make it shine, I'm your man. But I can't do the
Yeah.
details. So I know I always build a team, and I do. I build a team of people that are the details because I need details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is why when you have a team, it's really, really important to do some type of evaluation like that, because it gives grace to the other one and it helps. It's like Strength Finders, it's like Enneagram, it's all of those platforms. It's going, this person is like this, so we need to use them for these things. They thrive in that area. In the urgency and the immediacy, the da 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 da. I don't want my person who's the urgency, immediacy person. I want that guy on the floor at an event, managing caterers here, flowers here, da da da, put this here. They can make quick decisions. I want them doing the spreadsheet for the budget.
No, no.
No, because they're like, round it up, just round it down. So you being able to identify and place people into roles and leverage what they're great at, they will be your employee for life if you put them into a position where they can succeed.
So I wonder, I know where my attributes have come from, and I know that when I was an activities manager into the cruise director, when there was always a change between activities manager or cruise director, I had that ethos. That ethos was, if you're not good at that, not a problem, let me put you over here. And I wonder if I got that from you when we were going through the coaching, or Dave Chapman, because then you'd always get somebody else coming and say, no, everybody has to do the same thing. I'm like, no, you need to be able to do that. So I've definitely come from that, Barbara. So I'm thinking, I wonder if that's where I've got that from. Because we're always learning, we're always sponges. And sometimes we forget where that knowledge has come from. So I definitely have that mindset of the manager who's like, no, if they're not good at that, let's put them somewhere else. Everyone's got value. And I'll say thank you in case it was from you, Barbara, because I genuinely think it was. So,
Aw.
yeah, no, that's another way to say thank you as well.
Yeah, and just really, this goes back to it's from your spiritual beliefs that we're all created beautifully and perfectly and exactly who we need to be to like, and even if it's just goodness in people, it's like really looking at that person going, they don't have to be just like me. They have something really special and really unique. And me as a leader, it's my job to find it in them. It's my job to figure out what is their superpower? What do they love to do? I always ask that question to my team. I go, what about your job do you love? What's the thing that like you, if you could do it all day long, you would do it all day long? And they tell you, and what's the thing that you hate? And then they tell me what they hate. And I go, okay. And it goes in the back of my mind. So next time we have a project, I go, what pull so-and-so into this project so they can oversee the budget? Hey, give them a chance at this. And oh my gosh, they just thrive because, like the janitor at Royal Caribbean, they have been seen. You see them for who God created them to be, who they are naturally intended to be as a person, and you're just putting fuel. You're just putting a little fuel on that fire, and people feel so good when they're in that space. And leaders forget that. It's not just a job description. Rewrite the freaking job description. Redo the job. Do something like, and that's when you build a really strong, sustainable company, that you can start moving people around here and there. And then you're going to have like the A's, like the superstars. You're going to have that person that's freaking good at everything. And those are the ones that you want to put them in all areas of your organization to groom them, to eventually take over from you.
Yeah.
Really, truly.
Yeah.
That's the goal. So you can go on 9-month world cruises with your family.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I know there's more of that planned. So, while people are watching the podcast, and I know this is more business orientated, I do a lot of trainings for businesses, on technically not really emotional intelligence, but actually, yes, emotional intelligence. So I've got a slap training. So it's called slap. So if you could slap your teams for positive mental health, would you do it? And most of the businesses that I work with, I go, oh, I'd love to slap my teams. I'm like, perfect. Let's give them a choice of their emotions. And then I've got a training for the business leaders of like, look, this is what you need to listen to. This will tell you the emotional states of your team without even talking. You will know.
Yeah.
It's like opening up the matrix for people. So that's my business. But Barbara, you've now started growing this fantastic business. So tell everybody, what does Barbara Cobas do now?
Okay, so we have our main business is called Ola Inc. And so we are a consulting graphic design and print company. We started just doing graphic design. Then we started printing banners in our studio apartment. I would go to my corporate job. My husband would go and print. He had his printer in a co-working space and he would print, bring the rolls home, and we would watch TV and cut banners. And now we have a really big facility. It was in our house, and then eventually we bought a piece of real estate, and it's in our facility. And in-house in Miami, we have production, installation, logistics. Remotely, globally, we have our purchasing department, our administrative department, we have our account executives, and 98% of our clients are within the cruise industry. And I think too many businesses try and do too much for everybody. And we even get distracted is what we love, anybody can print a business card, anybody can print a banner, anybody can do anything. But what we are really good at is cruise. It's what we love. And so we made a really intentional decision, and a great, great book is Traction. It's the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And that book really transformed our business because it focused us. It made us hone in and like, how do we become the best at this field? And so over the last probably 2 years, we have had our clients are like, you're really good at this. Could you do this for us? You're really good at this. Could you do this for us? Our clients were basically forming what the future of our business was going to look like. So now we do everything from concepting to design to print to installation to recapping. So for any and everything within the cruise industry. During COVID, we had a Amazon logistics business. So those gray Amazon trucks you see in the street. It was a miracle that fell from the sky that we knew. And I had applied for this program. I had no idea what it was. I thought it was like a pyramid scheme, but I was like, they haven't asked me for any money yet. So I'm just going to keep going. And then I got approved. It was 1 in 10,000 people got approved from the applicants. And I was like, okay, but I have a business. I don't need this. And then lo and behold, COVID happened. And so I had 100 drivers and about 40 vehicles, and I was managing and operating and making people happy. Amazon's retention, so their employee turnover was about 25% in that job because it's a really, really hard job. Mine was 85%. So I had 85% retention of my employees. And they're like, how do you do it? My business, how do you do it? I was like, I'm just nice to people. I don't know. Like I don't shout at them. I treat them well. I ask them, I know the names of their wife and their kids. I know their birthday. I know if they like dogs or cats. Like it's innocent. Like that costs me no money. And how much money does it cost to hire and hire and hire and hire? Insane. So we closed that business maybe 2 years ago. And then we really realized in our business that there were so many crew members from cruise ships that did not go back during COVID. Yep. And we were like, we can't hire all of these people. And so we opened a staffing agency for former cruise ship crew members. Yep. After they get off of ships, they come to us and we look to get them remote employment. So they'll stay in their home country in Chile, in Argentina, in Philippines, and they will work remotely for a cruise line or some type of brand within the and now we're looking at expanding outside of just the cruise industry because I have so many people that want jobs, really, truly. And again, our goal in this business, The Go-Giver is like one of the best business books on the planet. It's a fiction book. And this book it's really how we run our business. It's like, how do we do more? How do we do more? How do we serve our employees? How do we serve our customers? How do we give more and every single day for our staffing business, I'm like, I want to change one life. I want to make a difference in somebody's life, giving them a job, connecting them to something, having an influence. And that really, the business is easy when you operate that way, when you're not striving.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely. There's not one part of you which is scarcity mindset in any way. And it's funny that clearly you are a high level manifester. I mean, every part of you, Barbara, is manifestation. And we've not touched on that, but you don't talk about it much either, which is quite refreshing.
Yeah.
Fair. You see a lot of people on social media and business and manifest this, and this is how I do it. And it's funny that you talked about the Amazon thing. I was like, I think it's a pyramid. I think it's a pyramid. It's like, we're just going to wait, but they've not asked for no money yet. But I think it's a pyramid. Oh, it's not a pyramid. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's all credit to
I
me as
think of
well.
life as like this. One of my employees, he's phenomenal. He uses this term that I've stolen from him, and he calls it the unforced rhythms of grace.
Mm,
That and I've put it in because I'm a very like literal create analogies. I think of my life as I'm on a red carpet and take a step out and the carpet rolls, and I take another step out and the carpet rolls. If you can envision your life as if it's being created for you with your thoughts, with your words, with everything, I'm like, be careful what you think, people, because it's going to happen from illness to goodness. So it don't get rid of this language of, oh, breast cancer runs in my family. BS. No, your language is, I'm healthy, I'm strong. You're talking, you're speaking life. And the world cruise, you're gonna laugh about this because I legit think that I created it in my mind, because it doesn't get funnier than this, Cuddy. Can I tell you the story about the world cruise?
oh, go
So
for it. Absolutely.
so Royal Caribbean has never done a world cruise. Royal Caribbean is a cruise line that we both worked for. My husband and I knew that we were going to travel with our kids when they were about 9 to 10. We were like 10 was probably the ideal age, because once they get to like teenagerhood, they're kind of with their friends. Any younger, they don't remember or appreciate it. So 10 was kind of our target. We thought that we were going to like get a round the world plane ticket. We thought we were going to vlog. We didn't know how, but we just said kind of that's the age. Royal Caribbean is the cruise line that we work for. And lo and behold, Royal Caribbean comes out with a world cruise. But most cruise lines, there's never been a world cruise. It's a proper around the globe one.
Yeah.
It's always like a leg here, a leg there, and they're kind of crappy reposition cruises.
Yeah.
This was 274 days, 11 world wonders, 7 continents, round trip Miami, the city we live in. We live in Miami, walk across the gangway, cruise line we work for, full world cruise at the age of our kids. Story gets better. It is on the ship my husband and I met on, Serenade. There are 25 ships in their fleet. The fact that they chose the ship that we met on, it almost would have been like blasphemous not to do it, because I was like, lightning is going to come down from the sky if we don't book this. I'm like, Sebastian, you can't make this stuff up. And he's like, I'm like, we got 2 years to plan. So we were on board a ship and we sat down, we booked it and never looked back. And I think it's something as specific as that, just putting the thought out there, believing that if you have a desire in your heart, don't wait till you're 70 years old to do it. Do it now. There's a book called Die with Zero that's phenomenal. And this guy talks about like basically scheduling out your life in a way where you go, these are all the things that I desire to do in my lifetime. And then backing that up to age. What age do you want to climb Mount Everest? And then how much money do you need? So his principle is that a lot of people die with a lot of money and leave it to their heirs. So right now people are living to 90 years old, 85 years old, and they're leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars to a 65-year-old version of their children, when their children actually needed that money when they were 25 and trying to buy a house. So what in our mindset and our scarcity hoarded that money? God doesn't honor money that doesn't move. So get the money moving, get the money doing something, get it blessing somebody. And I think when you can operate your business that way, when you can operate your life that way, and just go, no, this is the right age for us to do this. And I think of Wayne Dyer gives a really good analogy of money being the ocean.
Yeah.
Like we get a choice. You show up with a teaspoon, a teacup, or a dump truck.
Yeah.
Does the ocean look any different? No, it doesn't look any different. But I'm showing up with the dump truck. I'm showing up. I'm taking that out. I'm giving it away. I'm blessing people. I'm doing cool stuff. And then I'm going to go back with another dump truck.
Brilliant.
So
I love it.
yeah.
Beautiful. Barbara, I know
Yeah.
how busy you are. To be fair, this has actually gone longer than we both expected, to be fair.
I know. But there's so much to be said, and there's so much beauty in what you're doing. And congratulations, because you're changing lives and influencing people. And especially, if young people can hear this message, and if business owners can hear this message, business life is not complicated. We make it complicated. It's
Mhm.
just believing that, you know, every single thing that's happening is happening in our favor, even the stuff that sucks sometimes.
I trained a lot of positive emotional intelligence coaches. So PQ, we talked about EQ, there's PQ, which is positive emotional intelligence. And one of the things, and I talk about it in my videos as well, I genuinely try not to talk about gratitude as much. I think it can be often overused and under
Yeah.
misunderstood with people. I think people are grateful when things have happened, and we should be focusing on gratefulness when we have nothing.
Yep.
And I do a thing quite a lot for anyone that listening is that you have to understand the power of language. And I do another training for managers, which is mind your language. And it's the consequence of the language that we have. You are literally firing off those negative neurons within the brain. It's actually the brain's purpose there. So the one simple question that I ask, you'll see it on my social media, is what's the gift? When everything's gone wrong, what's the gift? There's always a gift. And that simple frame of a question helps you go from where you are to where you need to be. What's the gift? There's always
Yeah.
a gift. When you have
Oh,
nothing,
it's,
you have everything, there's always a gift. Just ask that question.
yeah. 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 And being able to stand in the present moment and just breathe, just go. I have air in my lungs. I have a beautiful sky. I have a home. I have whatever you have, your children, your health, there is nothing not to be grateful for. And it's the antidote. It's the antidote. And people, be it as cheesy as it is, people go, "Oh, you're so lucky, but you're just lucky." I'm like, no,
Nope, there's not one
I'm
perfect
not
split.
lucky. It's because I believe goodness is destined for my life. If you believed the same, your life would change. So freaking believe, right?
Love it. Barbara, thank you so much. This is literally a masterclass of how to be a female leader in
Oh,
2025.
oh,
And
firm,
I can't,
loving, and believing in the goodness. Really, truly.
that's going to
Yeah.
be the title of the podcast, How to Be a Female Leader and Entrepreneur in 20, a successful
Yeah.
female entrepreneur in 2025. Barb, you're an inspiration. You're an inspiration to myself. So I want to say a massive thank you once again.
Thank
And is there
you.
anything you would like to part with before we wrap up?
No, just thank you for all that you're doing and all you're giving to this world. And just all the people that are listening, just know that your life is important and it means something. And you get to decide what it looks like. Steal the tagline if you want, design the life you desire. It's in your hands.
How to design a life you desire. That will be the title of the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, if it's in the mind, it can be managed. As I always say, thank you very much for tuning in. To all the new subscribers, the new followers of the podcast, mind management is important. It's important for yourself. It's important for your business. And if it's in the mind, it can be managed. And as always, always, big love from Cuddy.